Before you drop hundreds or even thousands of dollars on a projector, stop. Because if you don't know these 11 things, you could end up with a washed out, blurry, or totally useless box sitting in your living room. Now, I've tested a bunch of projectors, and in this video, I'm going to be breaking down exactly what to look for and what to avoid so you don't waste your money. And to help me do that, I'm going to be using this iSinbox JY821 projector as a comparison. So whether you're building a home theater or just want a solid projector for movies and games, this guide will save you time, money, and frustration. So let's get into it. So first, let me show you around the iSinbox and some things to consider, not just with this projector, but with projectors you're going to come across in general. Now, about 99% of the projectors out there will be made primarily of some sort of plastic, and the iSinbox is no exception. It does, however, have some decent weight to it. It doesn't feel super cheap, and it's not really lightweight. Now, one thing you might notice on the top of this is that there's only a power button. There are no other buttons on here to control the projector. It does, however, come with a remote control, but the thing you might want to consider is if you lose the remote, if it gets damaged, if you don't have any batteries for the remote control itself, you're not going to be able to control the projector at all. So that's just something to keep in mind. But this remote is really nice. It comes with some Netflix and YouTube buttons, and the main navigation button here is made of a really nice rubber, which helps you to feel exactly where that button is so your fingers not kind of sliding all around. We also have our manual here. It comes with a power cable. It also comes with an AV cable in case you need to use this with an older system. We have an HDMI cable, a cleaning cloth to wipe off your lens. And another thing to consider about this projector itself, on the bottom here, it usually has, or projectors in general, usually have a little knob here that you can kind of adjust to adjust the projector up and down. But this particular projector comes with this little pad here that has a couple different adjustments. You just kind of put it into the slot there, and then you rest the projector on here so it raises it up a couple angles. So we have the lower angle there, and then that higher one that I just showed you, and it just simply folds up just like that. Another thing you might notice on the bottom of this projector is it does have a screw hole in the middle here, so in case you want to mount this to a tripod, you can, or if you're going to mount this upside down on your ceiling, all you need to do is peel back these little rubber pads here, and it exposes more points where you can mount the projector to a ceiling mount in case you want to use this for a home theater. But if you're just going to be using it on your table, it does have these really nice rubber pads here to help keep your table from getting all scratched up. And if we take a look at the front here, you can see we have our main lens, and we also do have a receiver for the IR remote as well. If we look on the side, we have our little inlet for air. You don't want to block this in any way because the projector will then overheat. On the other side, we do have what seems to be another port for our speaker. And on the back here, we have another speaker as well as a diaphragm for our speaker. Just be very careful with this. It is fragile. You don't want to just push this in. We've got our power connection. We also have our outlet for all the hot air. We have our headphone connection here, our AV connection. We also do have the IR receiver for our remote here as well. 2 USBs, which you can connect a flash drive to access AV files like videos and audio. We've got 2 HDMI ports here, and we also have a LAN connection in case you want a faster connection versus your Wi-Fi. So the first thing you need to decide on is what resolution you want your projector to be. Do you want 1080p, which is good for gaming and presentations, or do you want 4K, which is great for home theaters, gaming, and high quality streaming? I personally would not recommend going any lower than 1080p because once you do, the pixels become bigger and bigger, and they become a lot easier to see, and you'll notice that it starts to look like you're looking at a screen door. Unless you're getting the projector for a small child just to watch some, cartoons or something like that, I would just stick with the 1080p or higher. And if you can afford it, I would definitely recommend going with 4K because it's going to give you a much sharper picture. Now you also have to be very careful out there because some projectors will state that they are 4K when they're really not. The thing you want to look out for is the native resolution. If the native resolution is 1080p, then that projector is a 1080p projector. The iSinbox that we have here is a native 1080p projector, but it does support 4K, and what that means is it can take a 4K signal, but then it downscales it to 1080p. If you want the best resolution, you're going to need to look for a projector that has native 4K to get a true 4K picture. But of course, that's also going to be a lot more money. This iSinbox also supports HDR10+, and if your movies support it, it'll give them a much better picture. The picture quality for the iSinbox at 1080p is pretty good. If you're sitting back maybe about 13 to 14 feet from the projector, the picture does look a lot better, but standing up close here, the text is a little bit softer than I would like it to be. It should probably be just a little bit more crisp and sharp to make the picture quality look that much better, but if you're sitting further away, you're not going to notice the softness of the picture that much. So one thing I do want to show you is that across the whole screen it does seem to have some pretty even focus. If we look at the very bottom left hand corner here, you can see that there are some numbers. You can very easily read those. They're just a little bit softer than I would like, not as crisp. If we look at the top left hand corner here, you can see that the text is just the same amount of focus as the bottom left. Then if we come over to the right top hand corner here, you can see where it says online and some of the other text is exactly the same focus as it was on the left side. And then down at the bottom right hand corner here, you can see the text for the report player. Again, it's the same focus across the whole screen, and that's what you want in a projector. Also, as far as the colors goes, it seems like the colors are slightly muted, and the color options in the menu don't seem to really make much difference, at least that I can see at all. But if you're displaying things in HDR, the color actually seems to be a lot better. The video that I'm showing you here is in HDR, so it'll give you an idea of what the colors and pictures look like using that mode. And I think the picture and the colors look so much better when you are using HDR. And here's just a regular video that is not in HDR, and you can clearly see how the colors are slightly muted. They're not as saturated and kind of punchy as some of the HDR videos were. I also got to do a little bit of gaming with the iSinbox using my Xbox Series X, playing some Call of Duty. Now the iSinbox does have an ultra low latency mode, which works really good. I didn't notice any input lag when I was playing the zombies game in Call of Duty, but if you don't have the ultra low latency mode on, you will notice a slight bit of lag. Another thing to note about the low latency mode is if you did make any adjustments to the picture on the iSinbox, it'll totally restore it back to the way that it was until you turn the low latency mode off. So if you're going to be doing any gaming on the iSinbox, I would definitely recommend turning on the ultra low latency mode, and you'll have a pretty good gaming experience. The next thing you want to consider are the projector's lumens, and depending on where you're going to have your projector will determine how many lumens you need for the type of room you're going to be using your projector in. For instance, this iSinbox has 1500 ANSI lumens, and that would be best for a darker room, kind of like a home theater. If you want something that's in a little bit brighter room, you're probably going to want something around 2500 to 3500 lumens. And then for maybe outdoor use or for something that's in a very brightly lit room, you want something more like 3500 plus lumens. Now another thing that's going to influence how good the picture quality is in a brightly lit room is the type of screen you're using. I only watch movies at night in my theater room when the lights are off, so I don't really care what the quality of the picture is when the lights are on, so I'm just simply using a very cheap vinyl. But if you want the best picture quality possible in a very brightly lit room, you're going to want to get something a little better, like an ambient light rejecting screen, which I have on my floor here. So here's a side-by-side comparison of what the iSinbox Only using 1500 lumens looks like using the cheaper vinyl versus the ambient light rejecting screen. And you can clearly see the picture a lot better with the ALR screen versus the regular cheap vinyl. The next thing I would look for is a good contrast ratio, because a higher contrast ratio is going to give you better black levels and a clear image depth. I would at least shoot for a 3000:1 contrast ratio, but for better visuals, you'd want at least a 10,000:1 or better. The iSinbox here actually has a 25,000:1 contrast ratio and actually has some pretty good black levels. And like I mentioned before, if you're going to be using the iSinbox or pretty much any projector in a brightly lit room, the type of screen you're using will also influence those contrast ratios as well. So with all my lights on in the basement here, you can clearly see that using the ambient light rejecting screen, you can definitely see how much better contrast we have on this screen versus the cheaper vinyl screen I'm using in the back that looks all washed out. So again, it's very important to have the correct lumens as well as the proper screen for the type of environment you're going to be using your projector in. And if we turn our lights off here and look at the ambient light rejecting screen versus the vinyl, you can clearly see how much darker it is on the ALR screen versus the top screen, where it's got a little bit of a kind of like a white washout. So not only can the ALR screen help you in a brightly lit room, but it can also help you in a dark room as well, giving you some deeper blacks. The next thing to consider is the type of technology that your projector uses to display the image. And there's three main types. There's DLP, which has excellent contrast. It's got sharp visuals. It also is used in a lot of portable projectors. The only thing is with the DLP, some people can see a rainbow effect when you're moving your eyes from side to side on the screen. The next type is LCD. This has rich colors, it's got great brightness, and it's generally quieter than some of the other technologies. The only thing with this is because it has such high brightness, it can give you a little bit more washed out of a picture, but the good thing is you don't have to worry about that rainbow effect that you see with the DLP. And the type of technology that the iSinbox is using is LCD. And the last type is laser. This is the best that you can get, but it's also the most expensive. It's got superior brightness, the best color accuracy, and it's also the longest lasting. And because the projector does use LED technology for the lamp, it turns on pretty quickly. Now, as far as the fan noise goes, this is pretty much what the fan noise is like if you're standing right next to the projector. But if you have this mounted somewhere and it's away from you, you're most likely not going to hear the fan noise. And that's probably because it has liquid cooling. And I know it has liquid cooling because when you first turn it on, you can actually hear the fluid inside turning around. The next thing to consider is throw distance and zoom. We have ultra short throw projectors and standard throw projectors. The ultra short throw projectors are mainly used in smaller rooms because you don't have a lot of space to put a normal projector all the way back to get a decent sized picture. The only thing you have to consider about the ultra short throws is the distance from the floor to the ceiling. I've got my ultra short throw almost on the floor to get about 120-inch picture, and the image is also typically capped out around 150 inches, whereas these standard throw projectors like we have here with the iSinbox can create up to a 300-inch picture. You can put it back about a max of around 30 feet, and the least amount of distance you can put the projector to the screen is about 4.3 feet. And the nice thing about the iSinbox is even if you are putting it all the way back that far, if you need to make the picture a little bit smaller to fit your screen, it does have a lens zoom to accommodate that, whereas the ultra short throw does not. One other thing to keep in mind with the ultra short throw projectors, because they are projecting the picture up, they are less forgiving with the picture quality. So if you want the best picture with the ultra short throw, you're probably going to want to get that ALR screen, whereas these standard projectors are more forgiving because they're projecting forward on the wall and they will show less imperfections on your wall or your screen if they're not perfectly aligned. Right now, the iSinbox is sitting probably at about 15 feet away from the screen to get about a 140-inch picture. The next thing you want to consider is how much you're going to be using your projector, because some of the projectors use different lighting. Some of the older technology projectors use regular lamps, which their lifespan typically lasts around 2,000 to 5,000 hours. And when that ends, you're going to have to replace the lamp. Whereas some of the newer technology projectors use LED and laser, where these types of projectors can last around 30,000 hours plus. The iSinbox here that we're using right now uses LED technology, so that should last you about 30,000 hours. And of course, laser being that much more expensive should last you around 30,000 hours plus as well. The next thing you want to consider is what you're going to be connecting up to your projector and what kind of ports you're going to need. The iSinbox here has two HDMI ports, one which can be used for eARC using audio through the HDMI. So you still have one HDMI port to connect to pretty much any device that you have using HDMI. We also have a couple USB-A ports where you can connect up a flash drive and you can stream videos and things like that directly from the drive itself. This also does have Wi-Fi 6 for casting from your device, and it's also got Bluetooth 5.3, so you can wirelessly connect this to an audio device and play sound through Bluetooth instead of right from the projector. Now, if you don't have a soundbar or an audio system, or if you just want to use this projector on the go, this does have a 36-watt speaker built in, and it gets super loud. So it'll definitely allow you to use the projector and listen to whatever you need to at pretty much any volume you need.
That ain't made my go-go up. It's our pleasure to welcome you to Fractone Village. Hold up. Let's see what y'all got. I'm about to destroy your whole city. Oh, you can destroy you too? Hold up. Look, listen, when I was playing the game, there was a lot of stuff I missed, y'all.
Just trust me, it gets super loud. The next thing you might want to consider are the audio capabilities of that projector. Now, typically projectors will have some sort of speaker system built in, but they vary in quality. The iSinbox actually has one 36-watt speaker that can get super loud, and the quality is actually pretty good for being just that one speaker. And if you have to use it on the go, it'll definitely get you by. But I would definitely recommend, if you want that theater experience, to hook up your projector to a soundbar or some sort of a theater system if you happen to have it. The iSinbox also supports DTS and Dolby Audio Plus. And like I mentioned before, because the iSinbox does have Bluetooth 5.3, you can easily wirelessly connect your projector up to a wireless sound system as well. And to give you an example of what I mean, you can easily connect this projector up to this Sony AX7 that I have to give you a theater experience pretty much anywhere you are. The next thing to consider is whether or not the projector has Keystone and lens shift. And this will help, especially if you have your projector off at an angle and you can't have it directly in front of your screen. So if you have your projector sitting maybe on the floor and you're angling it up, or if you have it off to the side, the keystoning will help fix the picture so it looks like the projector is directly in front of the screen. And as far as the lens shift goes, if you can't have your projector directly in the middle of the screen, but you have it off to the side, you can use the lens shift to kind of move the picture over without any distortion. And the iSinbox actually has both. It's got lens shift and automatic keystoning. So if you place the projector on an angle facing up towards the screen or even off to the side, the projector will automatically adjust the picture to make it look as if the projector was directly in front of the screen. Now, I think one of the most important things you need to look out for when you purchase a projector is picture evenness. When you first put your projector on your wall or a screen, if it's perfectly even, you should have a nice square image. Sometimes you'll get a projector that'll have rounding in the corners, or it'll actually curve across the top, or maybe even the bottom, or both at the same time. And that's not typically something that you can go into the settings and fix. And if we take a closer look at the picture that our iSinbox projector is projecting, you can look in all four of the corners and they're evenly 90 degrees. We can look across the top, on the sides, and on the bottom, and you can see how even that line is all the way across. So you know that this projector has a nice even picture. And then the last thing to think about is whether or not the projector has a built-in OS system for installing applications versus having to connect another system like a Roku or a Fire Stick for streaming. Our iSinbox here does have an AI-powered OS system that you can use for watching Netflix, YouTube, Prime Video. It even has a section for some live TV if you want to use that. And if you want to install some extra apps, you can go into the All Apps here. It's got an app store at the bottom, or we can install Apple TV, Disney Plus, HBO Max, Plex. So you don't have to connect another device just to use streaming. And the system's also pretty fluid. It moves fairly quickly, so you don't have to worry about a lot of lag when you're moving around the system to select what you want to stream. Now, of course, if you're just going to be connecting an Xbox or some other device to play on your projector, you might not have to worry about the OS, but it's there if you need it. So those were the 11 most important things that I think you should know about when purchasing a projector. And I know that some of the things you won't be able to test out until you actually get the projector in hand, but at least now you know what to look for. And if your projector doesn't have what you need, you can at least return it. I also want to thank iSinbox for sending me out their projector so I can include it in this video. They just simply sent the projector. I'm not being paid in any way for this review, and everything I told you about it were my own words. Now, if you do want to pick up the projector yourself, I will be putting product links in the video description. And if you guys enjoyed the video and found it at all useful, let me know in the comments below and consider hitting the like button. Thank you all for watching. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.